the spookiest of all, ransomware.
Ooh. Does it lurk in the deep, dark shadows of the internet?
Ransomware is everywhere. Every attack could be a ransomware attack. That's what I often tell people, because everyone's like, oh, I want to protect against ransomware. You don't know it's going to be ransomware until it's too late, really.
When there's something strange in your network, who are you gonna call?
Cyber defenders. Oh, bloody hell, I messed up.
What's the plan, Tessa? Welcome back.
CyberSpace.
Empirical training. Do you know what I mean? So they're like empirical training. Welcome back.
Hello and welcome back to the CyberSpace podcast by Empirical Training. I'm your host here yet again, Josh Davis, cybersecurity product specialist, former SOC analyst. Used to sit next to my one guest today. I say guest, he's more like a co-host. You see him most weeks. It's Robbie. He was my mentor. He was the sensei that guided me when I first sat down in that security operations center, absolutely bricking myself. And now here he is today to share some knowledge with the rest of you guys.
Feels like many moons ago we were sat next to each other making songs up.
Yeah, anything to keep us sane from that job. That was a tough gig to start with, but such is the way, and it's been pretty great ever since.
Learn a lot as well in those first years.
Absolutely. And so we are going to do a Halloween special today, so that's what you can expect to hear on the pod this evening. If it is, hopefully it is evening where you are. If maybe you're in the States listening to this live, then you might be still afternoon for you guys, so maybe not quite so spooky, but we're going to bring some atmosphere. I've spent time downloading royalty-free music just in case someone wants to sponsor the pod. One should be playing right now. Can you hear that, Rob? Oh, it's incredibly quiet.
Yeah. No, I've got it. I've got some crickets.
Yeah, crickets. It may well have a jump scare in. I can remember when I first listened to them, but I've just dumped them all in here, and I can't remember which name was what. So.
Oh, Donna, I'm drinking my tea here, and I'm very jumpy.
Nice. But the theme of today, to keep it in theme with spooky season, we talk cybersecurity, and often we talk getting a cybersecurity job. Now that's scary enough, so probably not going to talk much about that today. Instead, we're going to talk about scary cybersecurity happenings, things that have happened to us, things that have happened in the industry, in the news, in the headlines, or maybe things that have happened to people we know as well, all anonymized, because I think it's part of the dark humor that you get maybe in working in cybersecurity. You like it when things go wrong. To a degree. In hindsight, you can have a good old laugh about it, and you kind of have to while you're working it. Otherwise, everything sets on fire and you burn down with it. Any? Does that bring back any uncomfortable memories of you sitting in fire all around you, Rob?
I was getting a little bit distracted trying to come up with a song that's fitting for the podcast, and the only thing I could come up with was "When There's Something Strange in your network, who are you gonna call? Cybersecurity professionals."
And that is a blast, because that's a blast from the past, because that's what we used to do. Ooh, owl! That was spooky.
Who are you gonna call?
I didn't expect that.
Cyber defenders. Yeah.
So my fellow cyber defenders, my cyber protectors, those of you in our community, cyber protectors is what we call ourselves, and those of you just involved in cybersecurity, let's start with something really scary. Actually, no. I'm going to build up to something really scary. I'm going to start with something a little bit.
Kasinko's just put in the chat, another rap day ?
Not quite a rap day. The podcast has started, okay? So we've got our live chat as well. I should have introduced them. They will be chiming in, sharing their scary cybersecurity stories. Hopefully keep them light as well, right? I don't want it to be too depressing and scary. Like, I don't like Saw scary. That kind of horror never intrigued me, where it's just gratuitous gore and violence.
Yeah, never been a fan of Saw. Never been a fan of Saw. Never been a fan of like the Hostels. Although actually the Hostels I prefer Hostel than Saw. But for me, I'm not into really, really scary films. I'm more of a Quiet Place, or have you seen those movies?
Is that the one where they're blindfolded? The lady's blindfolded. I think it's someone else.
No, that's That's Birdcage, is it, or Birdman?
Yes,
or...
yes, yes. So no, I
A
haven't seen
quiet,
that one.
a quiet place is where they're not allowed to make any noises because the monsters or whatever can pick up sounds. So yeah, they just basically have to be super silent, and they're actually signing. They're using sign language to communicate.
Good watch. I'm gonna have to check that one out.
Oh, it's a hell of a watch. There's three. There's two that are similar, and then three isn't related at all, but it's still, you know, on brand with the theme of the storyline.
Ooh, my partner loves those scary films, so I'll get that going. We watched one the other day on Amazon called Mothers of Monsters, which was about a mother who thinks that her child is a school shooter, so tries to document him. It's one of those found footage, you know, where it kind of feels like it could be real, like it's all the kind of webcams and hidden cams, like Paranormal Activity, which I have to admit, when I first watched that, I actually thought it was real. I didn't realize that those films were kind of, when they would say this is the true story, I fully snapped that up. I wasn't much of a horror guy. I grew up in a very religious household. I wasn't allowed to watch horrors.
that terrified me. I watched Paranormal Activity in the cinema, and it was, yeah, for me, that sort of stuff is absolutely terrifying.
Jump scares. Actually, Doctor Who. That you talk about the Quiet Place. That those statues, the stone statues that would move up to you. I remember that terrifying me back in the day as well. So you don't need much to scare people. But onto cybersecurity, because cybersecurity is bloody scary. It's scary working in cybersecurity sometimes because the impact of things that can happen, and it's scary what happens to organizations out there. You know, I'm slowing down the cadence here. We're getting real spooky. Let's talk first about the spookiest of all, ransomware.
Ooh. Does it lurk in the deep, dark shadows of the internet?
Ransomware is everywhere. Every attack could be a ransomware attack. That's what I often tell people, because everyone's like, oh, I want to protect against ransomware. You don't know it's going to be ransomware until it's too late, really, until they've got too many machines, right? So any attack could progress into ransomware. And what really scares me, Robbie, is how many people pay the ransom. And I was doing some research to try and work out last few years how many people have paid. It's a hard thing to check, right? Because people, maybe they don't want to admit it. I know there's even, we've heard of ransomware brokers, basically the hostage negotiators who come in and negotiate with the terrorists, with the cyber criminals, and turns out they were just paying the ransom and then charging the organization more money than the ransom was, so they could take a cut. That's bloody spooky. I think that was Rumble. It doesn't happen anymore. But the stats I found, actually, you have a guess first. Guess how many people, how many organizations do you think? And I have a range, so you're probably going to get it.
A percentage of companies that pay the ransom.
In the last 2 years is the data I looked for. Let's say 2023. That's actually where I got the best data.
Okay, I'm going to guess 60% pay.
You're on the higher scale, but you are in the range. 34% was the lowest I found, ranging to 79% was the highest that I found. This is from surveying organizations.
Yeah.
Yeah, spookier than you thought, or less spooky than you thought?
That's pretty spooky, yeah.
Yeah. What is pretty spooky is that I remember years ago I got asked to do cybersecurity predictions for like the next year. So what we're about to enter 2025, and you'll get the journalists come and ask, hey, what cybersecurity predictions do you have? And I once predicted that we'd see the end of ransomware because organizations were getting too good at it's been around for so long, and it's quite a long attack, right? It's not like a one and done. I was so wrong. But ransomware evolved, and that was probably the scariest thing. That's why it kept going. And the definition of ransomware changed too, to not only include the encryption, which it was at the time, just encrypting your devices, but also the data stealing, selling it on the dark web, so on and so on. Have you been involved in any ransomware cleanups in your time as a security analyst or a SOC leader?
I don't think I have, you know. I don't think I've been involved in it.
Wow, your security teams are good. Or lucky.
But I think it's because when I left my first job and then moved to the second one, we were essentially starting from scratch. So we didn't have any customers, didn't have any services. So that 3 to 4 year period was a building phase. So the customers that we did acquire and start to monitor, the activity was, fairly trivial. There wasn't a lot of important stuff or severe activity going
Okay,
on
nice.
in their environments, which was obviously good for us, better for us, because the larger your customer base and the more established you are as a managed service provider, the more interest in incidents you're going to work. So like obviously you're part of a big organization with a lot of customers, so there's going to be a lot of activity going on there, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely. We work with some huge enterprises, organizations who really struggle as well with kind of keeping on top of what I might say is maybe the scariest thing of cybersecurity is visibility gaps, right? Because visibility gaps is where you miss attacks and then you have to deal with them when they progress further than they should. So yeah, it happens, but you don't always have to make the headlines if you do get ransomware. If you can control it, if you can contain it, rather. Oh, there's a dog barking now.
Christ.
Hope no one's scared of dogs. We've had a question from chat. What's the new definition of ransomware? Yeah, I kind of threw that one away, didn't I? Rob, you want to go first? And then I'll clean up because you've heard me rattle this off a few times, I think.
The definition of ransomware.
Like the double, triple, quadruple extortions. That's what I was getting at with the extra, how it's evolved to kind of how they've developed their tactics to extortion.
Yeah, I would say ransomware is a string of malware that instructs the payload to encrypt all data on that device, and the ultimate aim as well is to propagate across as many devices as possible to encrypt as much data in that environment as possible. Then the malicious actors reach out to the company and say, hey, we've encrypted your data. If you would like to get your data back, then please pay us X amount of Bitcoin. And that's usually how it goes. Then sometimes they'll pay the Bitcoin and then they won't decrypt the data. They'll just cause more destruction. So, but it depends, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, that is so you got the first one, the encryption, the traditional one. The second one was the stealing the data and selling it on the dark web. The third one is to DDoS them. So kind of while they're trying to do recovery for digital forensics, like work out exactly what happened, what did they get access to, what data did they steal, selling that. DDoSing them, so they basically just have a real bad time trying to, and they eventually puts more pressure. And then the fourth kind of extrapolation, I guess, the evolution of the extortion is reporting it to the compliance authorities. So, you're trying to desperately work out what's happened, and they say, "Hey, we've got your data." You're legally obliged. I think depends what compliance it is, but normally it's like 24 hours of losing certain sensitive data. You got to get that in. So, I think. That's saying, hey, I'm going to tell on you basically, and I'm going to make you get a bigger fine and also make you look like a bigger idiot. So just ways of piling on more pressure.
Yeah, putting more pressure on the customer there, or the victim, to actually pay up before the threat actor actually reaches out to, I don't know, press or puts out a tweet or something to say, yeah, we've hacked this company.
Yeah, how scary is it if you appear on the ransomware list? Like Lockbit have their website where they post their victims and so on. That is a terrible way to find out that you've got in ransomware, where they're literally posting you up, and it means all of your detections failed. All of your detections failed. So
yeah,
ransomware,
it's embarrassing as well, isn't it?
It is embarrassing. I think maybe we're getting better at that, right? Because you got to admit things have gone wrong, and I have noticed people are being a lot more willing to say early doors they have been ransomware. They're working to clean it up, kind of having that clear line of communication, which is great to see, because I think that's the way forward. But yeah, back to the point. Up to 79% of victims pay the ransom and make the ransomware actors even stronger, even better. That's simply unacceptable. Simply unacceptable. But I've never had to be a CISO, or a CEO or a financial director.
Those stats as well are appealing to threat actors, isn't it? It's encouraging people to want to try and engage in these types of activities, or even do the old ransomware as a service So you're basically given everything. You could literally be like a extremely low level hacker with minimal skills, and somebody will, basically give you all of the automated tools that you need to actually hack into a company. So you don't really even need to be that proficient of a hacker. You can just pay a load of money and upfront, and you'll get all of the hacking tools and the actual ransomware itself to execute in the customer's environment. So
it's a good point. So it's scary how easy it is to actually conduct a ransomware attack these days. You don't need all the specialization. It was also scary, some of those hiccups coming out you, Rob. I thought maybe you were getting possessed as you were talking there.
I know, I've got a bit of gas.
Last one on ransomware. How many victims of ransomware who pay the ransom do you think get hit by ransomware and ransomed again?
Ooh.
This number is scary. Up.
Is it 60?
It's higher.
70?
It's 80%. I should let you get there. My bad.
80?
Yeah, man, that's a real rough time for the cyber protectors who you got to call twice in a very short period of time. Even more scary, close to half, 46% said it was the same attackers that hit them again, which means just, where's the honor amongst thieves? And more than a third informed that another threat actor might have been responsible for the follow-up. So basically, somebody else smelt blood, smelt bad security practices, and kind of snuffled in there. And that comes from Cyber Reason. That I think they're worth calling out, because that's a pretty interesting stat. They had all three of those there.
Yeah, I'd love to know the timelines on that data as well, where that company has had a breach, they've suffered a ransomware attack, they've obviously recovered from it in some form or another, and then how soon after have they been hit again? Like, because that would be an interesting fact, wouldn't it? Because you want to look internally to that business and think, okay, so from like an incident response perspective, did they find out root cause analysis? Did they figure out where they were exploited, or the original attack vector? Have they created any detection rules to catch this activity?
Yeah. So did they learn lessons and get better?
Yeah, but they clearly didn't. Obviously, if they got hit again, or maybe they did. It was just a different avenue. It was a different attack vector.
You have to be fair. Yeah, it could have just been another mistake, human error. It could, like, someone clicking on that phishing email, or a dev deploying something poorly. Maybe they did all the right things. You never know. But I guess that's why we're not naming and shaming anyone today, or are we? Maybe later. I've got a big breach to talk about later, but a little bit lighter. Let's remove some of the tension. This was another Halloween song that I found. It reminds me a bit of the Nightmare Before Christmas, that kind of vibe. This is Halloween. This one is friendly for the kids. Okay, my next scary spooky story to get at you, Rob, is, how scary is this? The devs say you can test their new web app after it goes into production, and only after it goes into production.
So they want you to test it out when it's in live production.
Mm-hmm.
That seems pretty smart.
Yeah, that's pretty scary.
Yeah, that's pretty terrifying. Who's done that? I'm not going to be naming and shaming, but
just these are just stories I've heard through the grapevine. We do love to swap stories, all cybersecurity professionals at trade shows and whatever, but we're good at keeping it anonymized. Even when you and I would write like a security analyst note, we know what we have to sanitize, what could be an attacker IP or attacker like domain or something, and we don't want any idiot clicking on it. So we kind of add a bunch of kind of slashes, or the square parentheses, I can't remember what they're even called. And we do redact sensitive information when we know it's not valuable, right? No extra. So I think that's a good part of the security community. That's not very scary. If anything, security guys are pretty responsible. There's a few mistakes I've seen on that side.
Yeah, we try our best.
Yeah, we're only human, and we got to work pretty hard sometimes. So mistakes happen. But here's one for you. You've worked as a cybersecurity consultant, right?
Yeah.
So you come in, you have experience under your belt, you've built SOCs, you then advise on people starting off a security strategy or building out a SOC. So you are a trustworthy security guy with experience, right? I could assume that from a security consultant.
So they tell me, yeah.
He's modest as well. But this, I have heard a story about a senior cybersecurity consultant who came into this financial organization startup and asked me, he asked me, what's the difference between a firewall and a web application firewall? And I thought, oh, that's scary.
Yeah.
We'd spent, and I'd assumed a level of knowledge, and we spent an hour talking about web app security and WAFs, and that was the question he hit with. And I just looked over at the people who paying him money to kind of advise on security strategy, and I thought, obviously, I didn't embarrass him, and I explained it in a nice way I could. And maybe I'm being unfair because we also say you should be able to ask the stupid question. But I was shocked at the seniority and the experience of this guy. Yeah, what do you?
That is pretty terrifying, isn't it? But you've got to admire the brilliance of it. I guess it's he was super naive in that instance where you were having like just a regular conversation, and I don't know, maybe he felt it was a bit of a safe enough space to shoot that question. He had his client on the phone as well. Were they on the call?
They were on the call.
They were in the meeting, and he thought, oh, this seems like a good place to try and ask this question that I definitely should know the answer to. So,
well, yeah. You've also made me see maybe the good in him as well. Maybe the less scared. He just wanted me to explain for their benefit, or, well, ultimately, I guess it might be more scary if he hadn't asked that question and gone away pretending to have understood what we talked about for the last hour and then given them advice. So, yeah, maybe not so scary after all.
No, I'd say it is pretty scary. Just given his status and the level of knowledge that he should have at that point in his career.
It's not a new technology, is it?
Going crazy behind there.
Oh yeah, you got those of us, those people watching on video for the podcast. Rob's brought his spooky animals in. I've actually got a black cat, and the missus is not letting him out because she thinks someone's going to steal him at Halloween, which I don't really understand why anyone would do that.
Oh yeah, there is a thing with Halloween and black cats, isn't there? Do you remember? Do you ever watching Sabrina the Teenage Witch? She had a black cat. Yeah,
but that doesn't mean people steal them, does it?
No.
That's the link I'm failing to see. I got the link with Halloween. But I mean,
I've never heard about cats being stolen on Halloween.
She loves that cat, and I do live in a big scary city. But okay,
yeah,
last two of the light-hearted ones before we go into another spooky boy. Your grandmother falls victim to a romance scam, and she transfers, or an IT support scam, and she transfers them £84,499. Yeah, that's almost $100,000.
Moly.
Is that scary?
That is absolutely terrifying. Well, you know, that's heartbreaking as well, man. They've worked all of their life for that money. You know, they probably built it up over time, and yeah, that just old people are just so trusting, and so, you know, they are naive, and they're not well versed of how the internet works, or it's horrendous, man. You know, these people are taking advantage of their lack of understanding of the internet and how the world works in this current age.
Yeah, they really play on their
85 grand.
They really play on their vulnerabilities. But I have good news for you, Robbie. Maybe it's not so scary, because the UK have they've either passed a law or it's about to come in place that really has a lot of protection for these types of scams. So if you transfer that money, part of a scam, you are covered now for up to £85,000, which is why I picked that number.
Well, so if you send it unwillingly to someone else, and then you find out that it was a scam, you can reach out to your bank and say give it back.
Yes. So, and the legislation makes both banks accountable for it. So if there are some conditions and clauses which there's no point getting into now, but if it's everything aligns to what fits in this bill, your bank and the bank used by the hacker basically have to pay half of it each. And so part of that is getting people's money back. But the smarter part of it actually is these banks make money off scammers, right? If someone from another, I don't know, let's see, other country, or let's say it's an external country that's doing the scams, they normally make some sort of a bank account that's in a Western country or whatever, or a country in the same region as the person they're scamming, and they get a big transfer of money to that account, right? So banks make money by holding money. So the bank was profiting to a degree. So that's why they thought, hey, we're going to make both banks accountable. And so one, it should force banks to be more stringent when they're assessing, is this a real bank account or is this maybe somebody using it as a scam? And they also now are like freezing payments for a bit when they think they're suspicious. So it's basically made them have to try harder, because ultimately they don't want to have to pay £85,000. They'd rather spend the money in stopping the scam. So all round, I thought that was an absolute win, and that is leading in the UK. So I hope the rest of the world kind of follows in that respect.
Yeah, and I think when you're looking after an account anywhere in the world, really, if somebody's over a certain age and money is going out of that account, the payments should just be frozen automatically if they go over a certain number. Like if somebody's sending over £15,000 or dollars, then it should say right, frozen. Mine does that though. I've done it. I did it for a car payment not that long ago when I came back from Bali, and I was literally at the person's house transferring like quite a bit of money, and it was on a Sunday as well, and it froze straight away, and I was like scattering to try and get the bank on the line because I couldn't leave this place. We traveled hours to get there.
You probably thought you were scamming him.
Yeah, I know. But nice. Like I get it, and I respect it as well. I wasn't mad about it. I was just like, I need to try and rectify this as soon as possible.
It's a good comment though. It kind of shows why those things, it can also hinder. It's like a false positive for a scam, isn't it? It can also hinder legitimate stuff too, which can be annoying. But we get why it's annoying because we know what the bad stuff can be.
Yeah, you accept that, don't you?
Right. Let's go into something a bit more dark.
Oh.
Sorry if that really hurt your earphones there, Rob. My transitional sound and you listening at home.
That wasn't that loud, actually.
Oh, was it not? I thought I needed to turn it up. The last one I have on my list of scary things that have happened, and this one is quite recent, and this, well, is it that recent? But it's been in the news a lot recently, is 23andMe breach. Are you aware of what 23andMe is?
DNA?
Yeah, that's right. It's one of those spit in a tube and we'll tell you you're 3% Nigerian and 20% Irish and whatever you happen to be. Which people love to do.
Isn't that a scam anyway? Isn't it just a scam anyway?
I assume there's science behind it. Like they sequence your genome and then they kind of map it against genomes of different areas. But yeah, it's a good point. How accurate are they? But my point is not that it's a scam. Maybe it was a scam how popular it got. Everyone was like one to test, and so they could see if they're allowed to be maybe a little bit on the line when it comes to racial jokes or something. I'm not sure what the motivation was for lots of people to get that, because I always thought, why on earth would you give a company your DNA? It's sketchy enough when kind of doing like medical stuff with like the NHS or like a proper hospital, but this is just a random company selling you that little service, and they've got that details forever. You got to like sign away your life with the what do you call it, the terms and conditions. They have access to that data and they can do what they want with it. So that's scary in itself. Yeah,
that is pretty scary. So what, they got hacked?
They did get hacked. I will not to be too hyperbole. So I'll say right now that the genetic information wasn't stolen itself. So on that side, it's not the hackers have got the genetic information, but you remember one of the guys we used to sit with in the SOC? He used to say that Bill Gates wanted your genetic information so he could make diseases to kill off certain people he'd wanted to kill. I always thought, crazy conspiracy theorists in cybersecurity, you'll always come across them. But I never thought that was the use case, but I did get his point that why would you give your genetic information? Because sometimes we like to think in security, what's the worst thing that could possibly happen? So that we can then prepare ourselves and the steps we need to take. So the hackers, they managed to compromise 14,000 user accounts. Basically credential compromise. I think it was just brute force credential stuffing, standards things, because they didn't have MFA enabled, as it wasn't enforced, and lots of this was. The hype for this was like 2014, 2012. Do you remember when that was when everyone was talking about this when it first came out? So I don't think people were that aware of MFA back then either. So I get it. But they took 7 million people's records. And what is scary is that they targeted certain demographics. So they were on the dark web selling them. And the two main lists they had were people, I think it was of Asian, maybe Asian Chinese, I'm not sure exactly. And also Jewish descent as well. So there was some motive behind these attackers, which is scary without even speculating too much further.
Yeah, that is terrifying.
It's terrifying. I mean, I was scared enough for them before that, the people who'd done 23andMe. But it has created some good conversations about, hey, should we really give that much data? I'm too scared sometimes to use facial recognition technology. To unlock my phone or whatever. I'd rather not.
But you don't think that your data is going to get breached from anywhere when you're signing up for things or when you're paying for things online, or you're creating usernames, you're creating passwords. That never crosses your mind, thinking, oh, the data that I'm inputting here, someone could get access to this at some point.
Yeah, I think it's a good point you make, because it's not just, hey, is this company a good company? Do I trust them? Do I feel warm and fuzzy inside? Because it doesn't matter. They could get compromised by somebody who isn't so good.
And you've got companies like Revolut as a bank, and I know that there's other digital banks out there. I'm not sure if Revolut is a UK based bank, but anyway, they've got services where you have a bank with them, you have a debit card, but what you also get is virtual debit cards. So for one-time purchases, they'll create a 16-digit code and an expiry date and a CVV number, and then you can purchase something online with that, and then it's basically disposable debit cards that you can just keep creating on as many times as you want. And will we get to a stage where we'll be doing that, but it'll be for actual personal details as well? We were already endorsing that company Cloaked, wasn't it? Get Cloaked, where they
sounds like a slur. No, I'm joking.
I think it's a US based company where you can sign up and pay a fee, and they'll give you temporary usernames and credentials, and the temporary identities that they basically give you. And I think that's something that will be massive in the future, I think, because then it shields you from the internet, essentially, doesn't it? And that's what you want. You want to shield your identity, your personal details, and your bank account information if you can. So if you can use technologies that can facilitate that, then people are going to be all over that.
Excellent. That's some good practical advice I didn't think to come out of that one. So balancing the spooky with actual good stuff you can do. That bank cards thing, I haven't seen that 16-digit one. So that's if you type it in, right? Because I know with your contactless payment like Apple Pay and Google Pay, that spins up a burner card that then you transfer as like a middleman and it goes over. So I didn't know you could do it on the web pages too, because I'm not. Yeah, that's good to know. And anonymity, just be clear that anonymity doesn't always equal security. It is part of security. Just because you're anonymous, like VPNs is probably the best example, right? Oh, my data's encrypted. Oh yeah, good one. Yeah, I know. I don't get how you're protected from malware. But yeah, it's worth doing. And a lot of people in our sphere are really concerned with anonymity. I wonder what the PO boxes. Maybe that's another one. You can use that instead of your address, right? If you want to send stuff to you, how far can you go?
Yeah, how low can you go? There's a lot of people that are way down on the rabbit hole in terms of trying to protect their identities, aren't they?
So, last scary thing before we wrap this up, because this one, I didn't know how dark we were going to get with that last one, and I wanted to kind of pepper in a little bit of the fun stuff and the scary stuff, because people like to be scared.
Some people
really
like
changes
to be scared,
and some people like to laugh at scary things. I think that's probably two types of horrors and joys, isn't there?
Have you ever been to those like
Scary
farms.
experiences.
Yeah, is it Tully's Farm in the UK or something? No.
I thought that was an American thing. I've never been. I've seen
Maybe.
clips.
Yeah, there's some in the UK, and I've never been, but that's something that does not interest me in the slightest. You actually couldn't pay me money to go walk through one of those houses that have got the paid actors that are trying to scare you and that jumping out.
Now I want to go to one of those with you because I want to laugh at your reaction to all of that stuff. I'm definitely the laughing at the horror type of guy.
That would actually be quite good content if all four of us went and did something like that and filmed it.
Go clip farm. But yeah, I've lost my train of thought for that one. But the scary houses, yeah, I've seen some terrifying stuff in the America. How the level of which they go for it doesn't actually look that fun to me. But what's probably more scary to me is what's in the digital world. What AI is doing. The AI creating content for AI. Where's that going to end up? I found out recently, somebody told me about AI OnlyFans models. So people are making with ultra realistic, sexy images, I guess, and then pretending to be some woman and then messing the fans. And people, I assume they aren't able to tell a difference because I think you could type in you could buy your own AI subscription. It's probably cheaper. So that's scary because we getting to a point now where people can't tell a difference.
And it's chatbots, isn't it? It's AI chatbots, or they're outsourcing that overseas to certain teams, and then they're just talking to them, pretending to be a girl.
And
people want companionship, don't they? That they want people to talk to. So I think it's going to be it is still a big market, but it's going to get bigger.
Yeah,
but it is terrifying.
Read an article
level
about
of deception.
A lady who uses every time her and her boyfriend have an argument, she asks ChatGPT like who's in the right and who's in the wrong, and he really hates it because obviously her prompts suggest that he's in the wrong every time, and then she comes back with incredibly well laid out arguments as to why he's emotionally unavailable or whatever. That was scary.
An AI counseling service. That's actually not a bad idea. Business pitch.
Yeah, but what about the ethics? What if it goes horribly wrong? Ooh, I don't even want to go down that road. The last AI scary thing then is AI making content for AIs. So, have you ever been on TikTok or Instagram? We post on them at Empirical Training, plug it. And sometimes you might see like the kind of like the Minecraft videos or like a Subway Surfer videos, and it's got like an AI voice telling like a horror story over it. Have you seen those?
Yeah, I've seen them.
Yeah, there's a few. Like whenever I see it, like whenever it feels to me that it's pure AI, I will get out of there straight away because I don't want to see more of it. But what's been really interesting is there are also AI bots on there that kind of like elevate certain posts. We're not getting into this, but they're involved in interfering in elections sometimes. But these AIs are finding the AI content, commenting on it, liking it, whatever, and AI is taking that feedback and going, oh, they like this type of content. So the content's getting weirder and weirder, and you're getting these echo chambers where AI is creating content that only AIs are watching. And I don't know, I reckon one day I'm going to stumble across one of those and find the most bizarre AI-generated story and images that... I'm actually getting scared thinking about it.
In conversations that are only happening with different AI bots, from bot farms.
Yeah. Bot on bot violence. What about how we get to that point?
bot on bot. We're seeing it with Spotify as well, though, and I know they're trying to clamp down on it, but yeah, you can boost plays on Spotify with these like streaming AI farms, bot farms, to up the numbers to then get paid, because you get paid. Is it every 1,000 streams on Spotify you get like $4 or something like that?
Yeah, then it's like one of the big consulting firms said that, and apparently got debunked because they were like, hey, if you listen to your song for every day of the year, you get X amount of money, and they're like, nah, that's not really how it works. But yeah, I don't know enough. All I know is that maybe is. But yeah, that's a hell of an interesting point, because it's skewing the numbers, all these automated views, skewing the algorithms for us, whether that's the music that we want to listen to or the content we want to see on Twitter, X, or whatever.
Yeah, and like Instagram and TikTok, they're going to be working hard behind the scenes to try and stop like AI-based content. They're already making some waves with the unoriginal content. That's actually hurting us right now, because content that we've posted on TikTok, our own original content, we can't then repost that content back to TikTok. If we do, it gets like strike, and it'll say this is unoriginal content, and it won't push it out to the For You page, and it will basically kill the engagement. You can do it on Instagram. You can repost your own content on Instagram, or if somebody reposts our content, then it'll automatically credit us now. So that's pretty good. So they don't even have to credit us, the creator that's trying to repost our content. The Instagram algorithm will automatically, hopefully, credit us. But
ooh, that's scary if you're only on one of those social medias and somebody rips all your content and posts it on theirs, and then you try and move on to that next one and you're getting copyright strike. Spooky world out there, boys and girls. But
it
I
is
think
a bit.
that's all we got time for today. We've gone a bit of a long one. Halloween special. We weren't going to come on today. We had some other cybersecurity topics to talk about, but actually we thought we got some time. Let's get in the mixer.
Let us know if you liked the spooky background music.
Yeah. I think I'm ready to stop it.
If you want us to do a whole episode where we just whisper.
We are not getting into ASMR content. That's just another part of social media that scares me. But thank you very much for your time today, Robbie. It's been a pleasure as always. I've enjoyed it, Josh. Thank you to the chat. Thank you for your questions, your participation. I know you had some scary stories in there. A lot of it was kind of around people selling data and stuff, which I thought was quite interesting. And Rob, I have one more surprise for you before we go. Let me just cue it up.
Is it the Ghostbusters theme?
Those listening at home, I just put probably quite a scary jump scare image on our podcast of the anonymous guy, V for Vendetta. I thought it was appropriate for us as cybersecurity enthusiasts. Did I get you?
You have to say Hoff 3 times and then Hoff. Just.
I don't think I got you. He's laughing and smiling.
No, I wasn't that scared, but it is still a terrifying image.
The jump scare didn't work. I'll try again next year. But thank you very much for listening. Thank you to the chat for participating. We've been Empirical Training. My name's Josh. This is the CyberSpace podcast. And if you want to sponsor this podcast, hit us up on school.com/cybersec. That's our free community. You can find us, DM us, approach us there. And also, if you're not here to sponsor us, that's a great place to go to get all your cybersecurity news, discussions, home projects, tips, tricks. And if you're interested, we can even offer you a little bit of mentorship to give you that accelerated pathway towards cybersecurity analyst and beyond. And we really mean beyond. So thank you very much, Robbie.
A consultation call as well in that community. So if you'd like to talk to either one of us or one of the sales reps, we can take a look at where you're at. And if we think that you'll be a good candidate for the mentorship, then we can progress from there.
Yeah. If cybersecurity is too scary to tackle on your own, that's what we can be. We can be your guardian angels and get you through that. So found a way to make it related to our spooky episode after all. Robbie, is there anything else to say?
It's a wrap.
I think that might be it. I think that's a wrap, right?
Cyberspace.
You know what I mean? So like